velká výzva. Jsem ráda, že mohu říct, že dnes budeme svědky historického okamžiku, kdy se první ředitelé českých a světových společností připojí k manifestu RETHINK. Připojí se k tomu, že souhlasí se změnou. Jejímž cílem je vytvořit sociálně stabilnější, konkurenceschopnější společnost, která se dokáže postavit výzvám nového světa. A myslím, že právě tou první výzvou je energetická krize, kterou asi mnozí z nás prožíváme minimálně nejenom na vlastní kůži, ale i na vlastní podnik. V této souvislosti bych ráda uvedla jména těch, bez nichž by se projekt RETHINK nemohl uskutečnit. Ať už to jsou partneři tohoto projektu, jako je francouzské vyslanectví v Praze a francouzský institut, Asociace pro rozvoj infrastruktury, Změna k lepšímu, Česká bankovní asociace a Česká manažerská asociace. A také nesmím opomenout zmínit Ministerstva průmyslu a obchodu a Ministerstvo životního prostředí. I tady vítám jejich zástupce. Velké poděkování pak patří sponzorům celého projektu, společnosti ČEZ, Komerční banka, společnosti PricewaterhouseCoopers a BNP Paribas. Moje jméno je Julie Hrstková, píšu komentáře do Hospodářských novin a jsem moc ráda, že vás mohu provádět tímto večerem. A ještě než pozvu jeho excelenci, pana velvyslance, k úvodnímu slovu, tak jenom vysvětlím, proč vlastně jsme v tomto nádherném sále. Jako určitě si vzpomínáme na Pařížskou dohodu z roku 2015, její signatáři se přihlásili ke snížení emisí skleníkových plynů. Takže asi nepřekvapí, že když
has emissions. Therefore, it is not surprising that the authors of the RETHINK manifesto wanted to organize this meeting. They came up with the idea at the end of 2020-2021. So they came up with the idea that the first meeting should be here at the embassy. That is why we have the ceremonial launch here. And now I'll pass the floor over to the ambassador. Thank you.
Dobrý večer, bonsoir, good evening. Thank you so much for being present with us tonight. It's really my pleasure to open this event, and particularly as this is not the first time we meet. In fact, with our friends and partners in the RETHINK setting, it's already the third time that we are trying to promote private involvement, the private sector's involvement in being a leader and in driving the fight against climate change with a very simple idea. Of course, governments take their commitment. They are very serious ones. We showed in the COP21 in Paris that we had this goal of limiting global warming to 1.5, tending to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We set the target for climate neutrality for EU by 2050. And we also have specific ambitions for the EU to reduce our greenhouse gases emissions by 55% by 2030. These are the governmental commitments. But we would be, I would say, nothing without the private sector, of course, without local communities, without NGOs. But one of the elements is that we really wanted to share is that there are many business opportunities in fighting against climate change and in moving to the low-carbon economy. That would be my first element. And the second element is sometimes the private sector goes quicker than the governments, and sometimes it's even better if the private sector is able to take the ownership for the transition to the low-carbon economy and is able also to push governments ahead to say, this is the way forward, we're not fearing it. I'm just trying to, I have a long speech, but I'm just trying to make it to the essential point. I'd really like to thank the partners that have been with us from the beginning. I see many friendly faces here, but particularly the deputy ministers that are from the environment, from energy, that are with us tonight. Of course, the chair of the Czech Business Council for Sustainable Development, the respective CEOs that are with us tonight, representatives of the business sector, and also, if I'm not mistaken, I hope we'll have the pleasure to have a representative of the Egyptian embassy because of the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh going on. Very quickly, the RETHINK initiative started, and we joined in 3 years ago. It was rather confidential, and the idea was, how can we make it something that is not only, I would say, for big international companies, but how can we stimulate, let's say, Czech ownership, and Czech ownership from, Czech companies, Czech CEOs, to make it here also very clear that there are business opportunities, and this would be my main message. I have, but I'll spare you this, I have 4 pages of big speeches, and I'll go to the essential points, which are very good, thanks to my excellent team. The first point is, we're not inventing. Climate change is a reality. It is affecting our daily lives. We can see this more and more, and it is based on scientific evidence. That's, I would say, number one. The second element I'd like to mention is that, as I said, the transition to the low-carbon economy means business opportunities. It means the possibility to scale up in value chains. And it also means, and it shows in today's energetic and energy crisis situation, that it is an issue of sovereignty. It is an issue of sovereignty for the EU and for each member state in the EU vis-à-vis the rest of the world. I'm not dwelling on what is going on in Ukraine, of course, or what we experience with COVID, what we experience now with the energy prices, but the main point is that driving the fight against climate change, moving to the low-carbon economy, ensuring the security, the energy security, and the security of supply does not mean that there is the Green Deal or the Fit for 55 on one side and energy security on the other. They go hand in hand. And for us, including during the French presidency of the EU Council, we really try to push forward the agenda that not only do we want to move to the low-carbon economy, to drive this change, but also we want to ensure that we have the right to choose our energy mix, an energy mix which will ensure our security of supply. And for us, it means a combination of renewables, of nuclear, which has to be part of the solution, and also of energy efficiency. And we are trying, and we are seeing that energy efficiency is more and more one of the key elements that we have to address. There's also a reality. We have adopted an EU taxonomy. This is also driving the change to the investments for more sustainable, socially responsible investments, driving the change, not only for adaptation, but also for mitigation. And that's also a reality we want to incorporate, and where we want to encourage the private sector to invest in this transition to the low-carbon economy. Another element is that, in our view, the EU level is the right level of intervention to drive this change, and not that it would be imposed, but that we would take the ownership for it. We feel that the EU level is the right level to ensure the level playing field. a level playing field with, for example, the carbon border adjustment mechanism, so that we ensure that if we do the necessary investments, we will make sure that our partners in trade will also be subject to the same obligations. It goes exactly in the same direction when it goes to trade level playing field instruments, when it goes to free trade agreements, which we support with, I would say, the COP21 clause, which is essential clause, which is making sure that in our trade with our partners, we incorporate this key point in the way we want to trade. That's a key element. The recent agreement, for example, with New Zealand showed and incorporated this level playing field and this special clause. So I'll stop there just to say that you will have the opportunity today and also tomorrow, the whole day, in the Institut Français in Szczepanska 35 on the other side of the Vltava to carry on. But thank you so much for being there, but also for your commitments. And again, it is a deep belief that we share among the RETHINK initiative, that it is by the ownership of the private sector that the drive to the low-carbon economy will be ensured. Just a final word, of course, on COP27. Of course, you would have the impression that we move from a COP to another one and that God knows what happens. But still, it's very important to know that this is not just only a commitment for, let's say, the European Union, or so-called the rich Western countries, and that we have also here a particular commitment. As you know, our emissions are a smaller part of the world emission. It's going lower and lower, and we still have some financial leverage, but it is with those international partners that we need to act and also to push. And for this, the public and the government commitment is very important. But without the private sector's involvement, we will not make it possible in a globalized economy that we help also and we move also this drive beyond, I would say, our prosperous EU in this context. So maybe just one figure, we account for 9% as the EU of the world's greenhouse gases emissions. By 2030, it will be less than 5%. So our leverage is also to be understood in this context, and we need not only to carry this change at home, but to be able, with private investment and the private sector, to carry on this investment on a global scale. And this is why the next COP and this COP is also so important. I really look forward to the contribution of the platform to develop. And again, I'd like to thank very much all the members of the RETHINK initiative and you all for being with us tonight and for showing your commitment, the commitment of the private sector. Thank you so much.
Monsieur Dutertre, thank you very much for your really warm words. Teď už jsme si řekli, že projekt RETHINK má změnit myšlení.
We've said that RETHINK should change thinking of people, and there are some parents needed for this process. And let me now give the floor to one of the fathers who has created the concept, former Minister of the Environment, Mr. Petr Kaloš, who represents the Czech Business Council for Sustainable Development.
Colleague, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Trade and Industry, CEOs of Czech companies, media partners, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greatly honored to welcome you warmly on behalf of the Czech Business Council of Sustainable Development at this first official meeting of the RETHINK project that is kindly hosted by the French Embassy. It constitutes a high-level encounter of signatories of the manifestos of the business community to support climate goals of Paris Agreement and outcome of the Glasgow Climate Pact. With auspices and support provided by the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and by significant support of sponsor associated agencies and number of other voluntary persons, we are to symbolically launch the RETHINK project. To remind, Project RETHINK is a CEOs-led initiative of like-minded companies committed to the successful transition toward a net zero economy by delivering effective, practical, and measurable solutions. The RETHINK project therefore aims at providing platform for the Czech-based business community to play a proactive role in protecting and supporting long-term economic, social, and environmental prosperity and competitiveness of the Czech Republic. Reflecting similar climate change focused initiatives by the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, RETHINK project has been created by our Czech Business Council and supported by numerous leading companies, as well as partners, associations, and NGOs. One of the most important challenges we are currently confronted at the national and firm level is how to effectively create and interlink and match necessary measures to solve the current acute national and European energy crisis, and on the other side, simultaneously, to effectively address the global climate change challenge. Reasons to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels and transition to clean energies, reinforced by pressing need to reduce our dependency on energy imports from Russia, have never been stronger and assurance of national energy security more obvious. The scale and timely complementarity of both processes and the magnitude of their impacts therefore require profound reconsideration, rethinking of current ways of doing future business. And it also will require a close cooperation between the public and private sectors. Within the EU context, it is the long-term strategy, Green Deal, that constitutes, by its 11 policies, it's not only energy, the framework for the transition towards reduction of CO2 emissions, reduce energy and material dependency, and sustainable and risk-resilient development. Let me note that the implementation of the Green Deal strategy in the Czech Republic is supported by provision of massive inflow of European funds. The current presidency of the EU Council adds additional spin to the RETHINK projects and this business community commitment and to our encounter today. This transition process and the business at the business level is strengthened by introduction of maintaining rules in areas of environment, of social coherence, and good governance, ESG. This will be a part which will dominate the support to this process in the future. And it is the banking sector that plays the key role, an innovative role by largely adapted concept of sustainable financing in supporting the emerging transition process in the private area. The preparation of the Project RETHINK enjoyed an excellent cooperation provided by the French Embassy, including a valuable personal involvement of Mr. Ambassador. On behalf of the Business Council, it is my pleasure to highly appreciate this cooperation. It symbolizes the long-term and ongoing effort of France towards support of the sustainable development and climate agenda. And moreover, it reflects one of our ongoing bilateral cooperation. An integral part of the RETHINK project and its first public event is the Tomorrow Innovative Forum to Climate Change and Energy Security, a public kickoff event of the RETHINK project. This forum will comprise 6 thematic panels featuring senior managers of major innovative and in Czechia-based firms addressing manner how the reassessed ways of their business to ensure the long-term sustainability, resilience, and competitiveness. We consider the Tomorrow Forum to be just the beginning of what we planned to be a developing program for Project RETHINK. The project will aim to encourage and promote collaboration between companies, exchanging expertise and experiences as we further strengthen the voice of business in the climate and energy security agenda. To conclude, let me thank to all CEOs and representatives of participating companies for their proactive cooperation in their RETHINK program and signing the manifesto commitment. The preparation of the RETHINK project has been an encouraging experience, and I do confirm our intention to extend the RETHINK project to further companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalaš. Jak už bylo řečeno, RETHINK je podnikatelskou platformou,
Rethink is a
ale
business
žádný biznes
platform,
nemůže
but
fungovat
no
bez
business
podpory státu
shall
nebo
function
bez
without the
podpory
support of the state,
politiků,
without
kteří
the
vědí,
support
proč a
of
co
the
podporují.
politicians who should
Proto je mi
know
velkou ctí
why
zde
and
na
what
pódiu
they
přivítat
should
Evu
support.
Wolfovou,
There is my
náměstkyni
great
ministra
pleasure to welcome Eva
Ministerstva
Wolfova,
životního
Deputy
prostředí.
Minister
Děkuji.
of the Ministry of the Environment.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be here with you today and great you on behalf of the Czech Ministry of Environment and also on behalf of the Government Council for Sustainable Development, which is chaired by Her Excellency Minister Anna Hubáčková. As we meet in uneasy and unprecedented times, today's event and Project RETHINK is even more important than ever. I appreciate highly the involvement of public sector into this topic because we were a little bit lonely as environmentalists and a little bit perceived as too alarmist or crazy or something. And we need cooperation of everybody. And I think today we can see the experience of COVID pandemic, which showed on one hand how fragile the system is, but on the other hand, that human can mobilize big efforts and immense financial and people's sources to solve crisis when it's perceived existential. And we need to view climate and biodiversity crisis as existential because they are. And we need everybody to cooperate with us. I cherish excellent long-term cooperation with our French colleagues, which has been intensified also by trio presidency cooperation. Let me also express my gratitude to the Czech Business Council for Sustainable Development and its activities, also as a part of the Government Council for Sustainable Development. I have to mention COP27 to little bit to details. One of the key tasks of our presidency is the timely coordination and preparation for COP27 climate change conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. We are currently concentrating on preparing the conclusions of the Environmental Council, which should be discussed and adopted by the Council on October 24th. Separate conclusions on climate finance should also be adopted by the Economic and Financial Affairs Council in October. These conclusions constitute the EU's negotiating mandate for COP27. We consider it very important that COP27 succeeds in resolving a number of key issues left open after COP26 in Glasgow, and that balanced decisions and outcomes are adopted on climate change mitigation, adaptation, climate finance, and climate-related loss and damage. We need to do everything we can at the global level to close the mitigation gap, mobilize climate finance, and strengthen adaptation measures. This is why it's also very important for us to focus together at COP27 on implementing the specific targets and work programs agreed at COP26 in Glasgow. We believe that promoting the involvement of both the public and private sectors in the implementation of climate action and the mobilization of financial and non-financial resources is key to maintaining the targets set out in Paris Agreement. In particular, not exceeding the average global temperature rise by 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial period and dealing with the impacts of climate change. We have to realize that now it is the time to shift the focus from negotiations to the implementation and commitments and the fulfillment of existing agreements, so that we are able to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. Czechia, in its role of presidency of the Council of the European Union, is fully committed to contribute actively to the progress of the Union in the climate negotiations. Regarding energy, Czechia, in line with its EU-wide commitments, has committed to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. The Ministry of Environment is taking active steps to meet this commitment. These steps include, among others, investment support for the development of renewable energy sources and increasing energy efficiency in residential and public buildings. The above support has been and is being distributed mainly from the successful subsidy programs as Green Savings, New Green Savings 2013, Modernization Fund, and from the operational programs Environment. In addition, the Ministry of Environment has recently concluded memoranda with leading industry players in the country to support the transformation of energy and mobility towards climate neutrality. Furthermore, an update of the climate protection policy in Czechia is being prepared in coordination with the update of the state energy concept. These documents will be submitted to the government by the end of 2023. The National Climate and Energy Plan will also undergo further changes, including an increase in ambition in the area of renewable energy sources and energy efficiency. Not only in the context of periodic review, but also with the implementation of the Fit for 55 and Repower EU targets. In the framework of the current legislative amendments in the energy and building sectors, the Ministry of Environment has clearly supported the renewable energy sources and energy communities. For energy communities, the Ministry of Environment also manages the research project called Comprehensive Setting of Conditions for the Establishment and Operation of Energy Communities Czechia, including pilot projects in the beta program of Technology Agency of Czechia. Its first practical outputs have already been published on the social networks of the ministry. In addition to the above steps, it is worth recalling the government's commitment in its program statement to end the use of coal in the Czech energy sector by 2033. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, let me encourage the RETHINK initiative in meeting its commitments as soon as possible, and let me wish to all of you successful global negotiations at COP27. Thank you.
Děkuji za vřelá slova, paní Wolfe, a poprosím pana náměstka.
Thank you very much for your words, and let me pass the floor to Deputy Minister Nedela. Thank you.
Her Excellency, Ambassador Alexis, dear colleagues, CEOs, on behalf of the Minister of Industry and Trade, it's my honor to welcome you today to the meeting of the RETHINK initiative. At the same time, I would like to begin by thanking the French presidency, French embassy, for assuming the role of host. The Czech Republic holds the presidency of the Council of the EU for the second time, and it seems that it's becoming a traditional for Czech presidency to deal with the energy security. I would say insecurity. This time on much larger scale than the last time. This time an unprecedented crisis embodied in war in Ukraine, which is dramatically affecting energy markets. Energy security has thus logically become one of the main priorities of Czech presidency. The Czech Republic faces the daunting task of completing the work started on the legislative proposal for the Fit for 55 package, and at the same time steering the discussion on topics such as the extreme volatility of energy prices, the EU dependence on fossil fuel imports from Russian Federation, the search for new suppliers, or reducing energy consumption. Already during the first months of the Czech presidency, 3 extraordinary meetings of energy ministers took place. At the first one in July, we managed to adopt a regulation on saving gas consumption in the shortest time ever. And at the second, in September, we addressed the topic issue of dramatic rise in energy prices and finalized the discussion last Friday by adopting regulation on emergency interventions to address high energy prices. On the legislative front, we are planning the trilogues with the European Parliament on the proposal for a directive on energy efficiency and a directive on renewable energy resources. We are also aiming to achieve general approach during our presidency on the proposal for a directive on the energy performance of buildings, a regulation on methane emissions in the energy sector, and a revision of the directive and regulation on the functioning of the market in gas, renewable gases, and hydrogen. Even given its seriousness, the current situation does not mean that we should compromise on climate protection goals. However, we need to proceed with the utmost caution and common sense. The need to increase the share of renewable energy resources in view of the readiness of our transmission system, electricity grids, and energy storage technologies is more crucial than ever before. Thus, the implementation of legislative proposal of the Fit for 55 package, along with right implementation of REPowerEU plan, are the viable solution for the long-term energy security and climate neutrality in the European Union. In this respect, we must be careful not to replace dependence on fossil fuel imports with other dependence, whether on import of critical raw materials for the production of, for example, photovoltaic cells or batteries. Nuclear power must also be a key part of the solution to an emission-free energy mix where conditions allow in the form of larger blocks, and we must further work on development of small modular reactors technology. The current situation was of primary concern to French and now is to the Czech presidency. However, such uncertainty cannot be solved solely by public sector. Thus, platforms like RETHINK are key formations that will help us to move forward in achieving the goals of climate neutral and energy independent Europe. To conclude, I believe that those challenging times represent an opportunity for the European Union to become stronger, more resilient, and independent. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your really true words about the Czech industry and the cold winter, and I would like to invite Mr. Petr Zahradníček, climatolog.
Now I would like to invite Mr. Zahradníček, a climatologist from the Czech Academy of Science, representing also the Czech Globe Company. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be there, and I'd like to have the presentation for private company because you have the right power to change something. I am from Global Change Research Institution, which is a part of Academy of Science, and I prepared for you some small presentation because I like pictures. If you look for the longest Czech series, which have more than 250 years, you can see the most visible impacts of climatic change in the Czech Republic is the rise of the temperatures. It's a standard for the Central European climate. We changed the cold and hot years, but in 80s something changed. The temperature started to rise, and in 1996, 26 years ago, was the last year when was the colder than is normal. From this year, we only changed the hot and hotter years. The hottest year was in last decade, 2018, 2009, 2020, 2014, 2015. Last decade was most hottest decades in our history, and the temperatures rise here 2 times faster than before. And when we compare the last 30 years with the pre-instrumental time, the temperatures is higher about 1.9. It's 2 times higher than global warming, and more than the sum 1.5 Paris Agreement. In our institution, we prepare the prediction of future climate for the Czech Republic, and it's still updated by the newest climate models. You look for this picture. You can see on the top. You can see the 3 lines. The black is the current climate. Red color is the pessimistic way of emission scenario. The blue color is the realistic. You can see to 2050 is the development of temperatures the same by both scenario, because it's a problem of our greenhouse gases from the past. We couldn't change nothing to the 2050. We must only adapt it. But what we can change now is what will be with the climate after 2050. Pessimistic way, it's temperatures higher about 4 degrees, or the realistic is temperatures higher about 2 degrees. But when we say 2 degrees, 4 degrees, what does that mean is some abstract number. I show you the impact on some climate indices. It's some hot days. In the typical summer days when you have maximum temperatures higher than 30 degrees. In the last 60 years, the temperatures increased about 2.2 degrees. And the number of these hot days is 3 times more. And 15 more tropical nights in the cities. For example, in the 60s was about 10 days, these hot 10 days in the Prague. Now it's about 30. What will happen if temperatures rise at next to 4 degrees? And a bad message. What we'll observe in the last 10 years with number of hot days. The climate models expected not for now, but for 2050. And record number in 2015, model expect for 2080 and later. The reality is about 40 and 60% worse than the best model for climate for Czech Republic expect. The model underestimated the situation. When we speak about climatic change, it's connected with extremes. The typical extremes for the Czech Republic is drought and floods. It was in past, is in current climate, and it will be in future. It's the same, but what will change is the intensity. The longer, they are longer, and they are more intensive. In the last 24 years, we have 19 major hydrometeorological extremes, droughts and floods. We have 11 years with droughts, 8 years with floods. And in some years, we have both extremes in 1 year. For example, 2020. In April was the peak of drought, of the 5 years drought. And the next month, May and June, was the big floods with 7 dead people. It's the typical for the Czech Republic, but the intensive is it's worst. What the most impacts of the climate change in the Czech Republic from my point of view, point of our institution? It's lower crop yields. In the drought year, we have 40% reduction of the crop yields. For example, in 2012 was a big drought, and the yields was lower than in the 60s. Second problem could be increased wildfires. This topic was in the background, but in 2012 we had a big fire in Bzenec region, and this year was in České Švýcarsko, in National Park, big fire. And we will not have the fires as in California on Portuguese. But in our country, we can have more small fires in same time, and could be problem for fire systems, which is very good in Czech Republic, but it could be problem. Next problem is with the groundwater, with drink water, because in the drought period 2015 to 2020, many villages in Czech Republic have a problem with the water from May, June, and July because it was a big drought. And for problem is overheated cities. We have 2 phenomena in the cities, climatic change and urban heat island. If you connect these 2 things, the climate change is worse in city than in the surrounding. And in the cities live now about 70% of the people. And in the future, it will be 90% of the people. The adaptation of the cities is most important, maybe some of the most important things which we must do, because there live most people. We speak about adaptation. Yes, adaptation is good, it's essential. But I am warning you before the bad adaptation, which could worsen the condition or cost a lot of financial and is not benefit. For example, our research in DIA catchment. In Czech Republic, we speak a lot about retention of the oil, water to the soils. Yes, the agriculture drought will be better, but we will have low water in the rivers, and this water is necessary for drink. The situation will be worse if we retain all water to the soil. I warning before political decision without science support. Okay, what can do the scientist for adaptation? The Czech scientists or Czech science is evaluated by number of scientific publications, but this publication nobody read. It's nonsense. In our institution, we try to change. Or our project, we try to finish by some web portal, which are free of charge for public, which is monitoring of drought, the world monitoring of drought, warning system for agriculture sector, warning system for wildfires, and so on. We try to change the Czech science, not write the articles to nobody read. Put the results to the public, to the politician, to the statement, to the business. And we speak a lot here about energy. And in our institution, we work with energy too. 40% of greenhouse gas emission is from energy sector in Czech Republic. And we, together with private company Ampermitio, produce the special forecast for energy companies to manage better the solar and wind power production for next days. And this unique system of the forecast can help better electricity management, save and reduce the price. You can see the portfolio of of all of wind farm and solar power plant, which our academic science with the private company do together. Okay, it's all from me, and thank you for your attention. But my last word, if we do right adaptation, we will feel as Jerry. But we will do better adaptation, we will feel as Tom. Climate change better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zahradníček, that you show us a really hot future. And now a few words from Geneva, maybe more positive. Thank you.
And I lead the World Business Council for Sustainable Development's work on the climate, nature, and equity action agendas, the imperatives of sustainability, as we like to think of them at WBCSD. I'm honoured to provide this message today, and I apologise that I cannot be with you in person. WBCSD is the premier global CEO-led community of over 200 of the world's leading sustainable companies, working collectively to accelerate the transformation of businesses and the value chains and systems in which they operate, collectively determined to avert the climate crisis, restore nature, and tackle inequality. One of the ways in which we extend WBCSD's reach to support that business transformation in businesses of all sizes all around the world is through our amazing global network. The WBCSD Global Network is a unique alliance of more than 60 CEO-led business organizations worldwide, comprising some 6,500 businesses, all united by a shared commitment to provide business leadership for sustainable development across the world. Now, the Czech BCSD is an important member of this global network, and I'm delighted to congratulate you all on your 10th year anniversary and to express WBCSD's fullest support for Project RETHINK and the manifesto you have gathered together to sign today. Your commitment to Project RETHINK and its manifesto absolutely confirms the leadership of the Czech business community and your strong commitment to sustainability and your drive towards real progress and transformational change. Long-term business success depends, of course, on thriving societies to trade with and a healthy planet for us all to exist on. It is, therefore, a business imperative that global temperature increases are limited to a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Achieving this requires decarbonisation efforts at an unprecedented scale, and businesses worldwide have a crucial role to play, matching their climate ambition with robust strategies and accelerating widespread implementation of the critical solutions we need. With the Czech Republic currently holding the EU presidency, you have a unique opportunity to send a strong message to the governments that encourages and supports the European Green Deal. As with WBCSD's own membership criteria, the RETHINK manifesto helps Czech business to galvanise the required level of ambition and focus collective efforts to transform value chains and energy systems as we strive toward a more sustainable future. I commend this important initiative, and WBCSD stands ready to support the Czech BCSD and all its members in this vital effort to avert the climate crisis and safeguard future business success. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you very much and many greetings to Geneva. A nyní bych moc ráda představila paní Zuzanu Krejčíříkovou.
Now I would like to introduce Zuzana Krejčíříková from Czech. She is also the Vice President of the Czech Business Council for Sustainable Development.
trying to move it. Ah, great. And I'm sorry that actually I came too early here, but the program has apparently changed and the video was supposed to be later on, so I'm sorry that I just kind of interrupted you. But anyway, I'm really glad to be here on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Daniel Beneš, who unfortunately can't be here today because of, let's say, energy crisis on the market that is just happening. But maybe one sentence at the beginning of my speech. In Czech, we have already rethought. What does it mean? It means that already in May 2021, we have adopted a new strategic vision called Clean Energy for Tomorrow. What does it mean? We have committed ourselves to become climate neutral by 2040. We have said that we would invest massively into development of renewables in the Czech Republic, but also elsewhere. And we have said that we will invest into nuclear, not only big nuclear, but also small modular reactors. Secondly, we decided, or we committed ourselves, that we want to become leader in providing energy services in Central Europe. So it means not only in the Czech Republic, but also in Poland, Germany, Slovakia, and other Central European countries. Moreover, we want to become a leader in ESG, and hopefully we think, and I think personally, that we already are a leader in the power sector in the Czech Republic. That's why I said we have already rethought, and I'm really happy that we could join RETHINK initiative this evening. Perhaps a short story from my side, because I don't have any slides and any longer speech on the paper. I came home I think last week, and my son told me, "Mom, do you know what Czechs mean?" And I expected that he would say České energetické závody, Czech Energy Company. But he told me, we have learned at school that it means Czech and clean energy for tomorrow. So I said, wow, Vojta, you are really a great son. So that's a commitment. And I think RETHINK is also a commitment. It's a first step. But for us, the most and more important would be to implement it, to implement RETHINK. And I hope that once I will ask my son in 2 years, Vojta, do you know what clean energy for tomorrow means? He will tell me renewables and nuclear, and Czech as number one in the Czech Republic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A nyní bych na pódiu ráda pozvala paní Hanu Kovářovou.
Thank you very much, and let me give the floor to Mrs. Hana Kovářová, who represents Komercni banka.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Dear guests, thank you for being here. It's my pleasure. Again, I'm standing here instead of Jan Juchelka, who unfortunately cannot be here. But he would definitely love to, because this is his hard topic, something he really loves and he really lives. Société Générale, as being a worldwide group, and Komercni banka being part of it, lives the ESG as a topic and has it in its own strategy. And it's not like for the last couple of years, when this is kind of being a topic for discussion, but it's already more than 20 years. The first deals and first things that happened around the sustainability were signed in 2001. And then other commitments were made, and we are continuing to do the progress and being really on the, I would say, front of what is happening in the banking sector, but not just that. We are having the 3 key pillars of our strategy, which is implemented around the globe within the whole Société Générale group. The first one is manage climate-related risks. This is kind of obvious, and you saw the presentation even before, and we know that climate change is happening, so we have to be ready for that and manage the risk and mitigate them. So this is kind of, I would say, natural. The second one is proactively manage the climate impact on the group activities. And this also implies to Komercni banka, because we set also our climate neutrality. We would like to be climate neutral by 2026, which means for the scope 1 and 2 and 3 best effort scope. And this is our general commitment. the last one, and I think that this is the most important one, is related with the clients. We would like to help them on the transition to climate neutral society, help them with their transition and finance it. The group has already 300 billion euros for the transition, and this is our general commitment that we are making to our clients. So this is something that really means that we are living the ESG in our hearts. It's not only us who can do this change. It's the challenge that has to be like fulfilled collectively. And this is not us, but also with our clients, but also with our stakeholders and public sector. It was mentioned here several times, you know, private sector, public sector, but the collaboration has to be made here. And I'm very happy, and let me step for a while a little bit in the shoes of Czech Bank Association, because I'm leading a commission for sustainable finance in Czech Bank Associations, and we are having the dialogue, and I'm very happy for that. And Mr. Neděla, he can prove that I'm right, because we had several meetings already, and we will have some more. So I'm very happy for that. We had also the meetings with Ministry of Environment and also Ministry of Finance. So the dialogue is very, very crucial to make the change happen. And this is something that I'm really much seeing in the Project RETHINK. And that's why we are so proud to be part of it and to support it, because collectively we can do the change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Kovářová, for sharing experience. And now, Mr. Jan Brázda from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much as well to be invited here, and also thank you for hosting this event in this wonderful hall of the French Embassy. Last but not least, I'm representing one of the owners of the PricewaterhouseCoopers in the Central and Eastern Europe. I'm also head of the ESG sort of team, so I'm a little bit biased here why we are joining RETHINK, but we really believe that this is a great and timely initiative, especially these days where, as Mr. Deputy Minister mentioned, there is an energy crisis, there is an EU regulation, there is a EU Council, which basically we are leading, and actually many things which we believe are important, but mostly we see this as a very great platform to basically join another companies which share the same opinions about the change, about the economic transition, because we still believe there's a lot to do in terms of like educating people and companies this is really happening, and unless we do something, we can really become like an industrial skansen in like 10 or 20 years here in the Czech Republic. So that's why we also try to promote, especially this is not the Green Deal, it's not really just something which is to be done because the European Commission wants this, but this should be really seen as an opportunity for the Czech companies. And we see there's a new industries actually on the horizon, which are like, I don't know, hydrogen electrolyzers, battery storage, it can be hydrogen trains and heat pumps, etc. And this is not just Czech Republic is lagging behind. We are now basically everybody is on the same like starting line, and so we just need to be really more like proactive in taking the benefit of this and also trying to include our companies in the research and development, because this is the future of us. And unless we basically transform the industry, we can be very quickly sort of like left out. Last but not least, PwC itself, we have got our own like a global commitment for net zero for a few years now, which you might say it's not that difficult because we are not producing anything which is like heavily relying on carbon footprint, but it's still challenging for us to basically meet the targets. So we need to become climate neutral by 2030, which is not that much time. And for example, we need to reduce our carbon emissions from the air travel by 50 or 60%. We also need to fully decarbonize our supply chain. So all the products and services we are buying, we only need to buy from the companies who already have their own climate commitments validated by SBTIs, etc. So it's actually quite challenging, and it's even more challenging in the Czech Republic. But because we already know, or we try to know how to do that, we also offer, obviously because we are a consultancy company, this sort of service to the companies, how to decarbonize themselves, how to set their KPIs, how to get there, how to to implement them, how to measure them. We also have a special, I will showcase tomorrow, the special software solution, because not every company would like to understand what's going on in the ESG sphere, because it's changing very rapidly. So we are offering ESG management as a service. So we basically outsource everything to the advisors, and everything is done for you. So this is something we try to also bring in this society. But I think that the key aim for all of us is basically avoid this climate catastrophe. And I think I look at the presentation from Czech Globe. It also, for me, it was very much like theoretical numbers. What does it mean if we do not anything, the temperature will rise by 4%? Yeah? But I think what really opened my eyes is that when I read the Bill Gates' book about the climate, how to avoid the climate catastrophe, he basically mentioned that where there were like dinosaurs living on the Earth, the temperature was higher only by 4 degrees, and there were crocodiles on the North Pole. So you can really see this, like putting in things into perspective, really do nothing, it's not really the option. And that's why we are all like committed to make this change. Thank you again for this Rethink platform and making this happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brazda, for very interesting ideas. But unfortunately, everybody cannot be here, so they send us greetings by video.
Je dobré si uvědomit, že doba, kdy změna klimatu a udržitelnost byla jen záležitostí PR, je pryč. Nyní je nutné, aby firmy opravdu konaly. Naše společnost PVC se již v roce 2020 zavázala dekarbonizovat své podnikání a sledovat ký řetězec.
Materials are responsible for 27% of CO2 we emit every single year. We at Circle understand the most and the biggest and most important material flows are in industry. And by closing the loop in our largest recycling platform in Europe and also helping companies to actually avoid waste and have better way how to manage materials, we can actually save, and we are already saving a lot. So far we saved more than 1.5 million tons of CO2, and that's just the beginning. We need to rethink the way we do business, to understand more all negative and positive externalities in society, to actually understand how to manufacture from less with less energy and deliver a fantastic value. This crisis we are in also a massive opportunity.
Změna klimatu je na straně jedné hrozbou největšího tržního selhání v historii lidstva. Na straně druhé vytvoří téměř nekonečné množství příležitostí pro investice a pro inovace. Komerční banka už od roku 2018 prochází asi největší organizační změnou a implementací mnoha změn pod strategií KB 2025. Znamená to taky, že prvky ESG vplouvají do našich denních rutin a jsou součástí developmentu našich produktů a našich servisů.
So this changing world and the pressure that we see on the environment means that all businesses are having to rethink the way that we do things. Everything from reducing the pressure on natural resources to maximizing reuse to giving our customers new circular options. We see this is incredibly important as we go forward.
Musíme zcela zásadně přepnout na nový způsob uvažování, jak řídit biznes. Přeskládat priority tak, aby se udržitelnost dostala do firemních hodnot, aby se dostala do cílů a také do strategie našich firm. A také musíme proto něco konkrétního dělat.
We know that the change starts with us. That is why our office buildings are already drawing energy from renewable sources since 2020. We also have our own photovoltaics on our buildings, and we will build more of them.
Od samého začátku společně hledáme cesty k udržitelnému biznesu a v naší komunitě jsme si navzájem průvodci transformací ekonomiky, od vnitřního fungování firmy až po odstraňování překážek v legislativě. Mám proto radost, že vznikla platforma RETHINK, která si vzala za cíl motivovat biznis k závazkům uhlíkové neutrality a společné práci na jejím dosažení. Víme, že touhle změnou jen stěží projdeme samostatně jako doposud a spojujeme všechny, kteří v udržitelnosti vidí příležitost pro biznis i celé Česko. Připojte se k nám a hledejme cesty k inovacím a změně k lepšímu po boku dalších changemakerů.
Profound change is unachievable without the involvement of big business. Major corporations may be part of the problem, but they are also part of the solution. In becoming the benchmark company for ecological transformation, Veolia is committed to accelerating and expanding the deployment of existing solutions while creating the solutions of tomorrow.
Členské firmy České manažerské asociace napříč svými obory mají ve svých plánech mnohá řešení ke zmírnění klimatických změn. Proto je iniciativa RETHINK důležitá pro společné sdílení dobré praxe, pro výměnu zkušeností a pro otevřenou diskuzi ke snížení emisí a ochraně klimatu.
Infrastruktura jednak ovlivňuje negativně životní prostředí a zároveň klima a změny klimatu ovlivňují negativně infrastrukturu. Stejně tak soukromý sektor ale musí umět nabídnout změnu. Zcela jistě bude přibývat inovativních projektů formou PPP, kdy soukromý sektor dostane více prostoru pro invenci, ale zároveň za ní ponese více odpovědnosti a po dobu desítek let. Klíčovou roli v tom bude bezesporu hrát i soukromý kapitál. Udržitelná infrastruktura bude hlavně vyžadovat naši otevřenou misi. A právě tu má za cíl otevřít projekt RETHINK.
Já děkuji za další důklad.
Thank you very much for this very nice description and definition of the RETHINK project. Thank you for this sharing of experience. And now it's the big finale. Let's see who were the first to join the platform, who were the first to seize this opportunity, who understood that if we do not change, then we will lose. So if I may ask to show.
Alstom, Circle, České dráhy, Česká pošta, skupina ČES, jejíž představitelka tady byla, poradenská skupina Deloitte, dopravní podnik Ostrava, Enviros, EY, společnost Ernst & Young, Ipsos, IKEA, Komerční banka, Malfini, České vysoké učení technické v Praze, Masarykův ústav vyšších studií, Metrostav, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Saint-Gobain, Sekira Group, koupelny a kuchyně SIKO, Schneider Electrics, SVEKO, SKODA AUTO, Wpcsd a poslední, kdo se přidal, bohužel není uvedený, je Vodafone, ale předpokládáme, že další firmy budou přicházet v dalších dnech a dalších týdnech.
Also believe that more and more companies will join in the weeks and months to come.
Já myslím, že na
I think that there will be more and more companies because it is not only about the energy crisis, And now, let me pass the floor to Jonathan Woodley, the former chair of Greenpeace International, and he works today as a consultant for sustainable and responsible companies.
Good afternoon. Just a few words as we come to the end before we have some drinks and cocktails. I'm very mindful of that, so I'll be fast. So now it's time to rethink the way we do business, not only for the sake of the planet, but also for the sake of our energy security. In my 35 years of being involved in campaigning on climate change, for the first, I would say 15, if not 20, the resistance was coming from business, who were commonly telling me and my colleagues when I was campaigning at Greenpeace that we cannot interrupt business as usual. Well, business as usual has been interrupted in the last 2 years, and it was during the COVID crisis that this concept of rethinking the way we do business came about, for the simple reason that, well, business had ground to a halt, or businesses were certainly looking at alternative ways of surviving, and this was a real wake-up call. It's interesting, but also disturbing to note that the Red Cross said in a report that the world should react with the same urgency to climate change as the coronavirus, because the Red Cross believes, as do many others, that the coronavirus is nothing compared to the impacts that climate change is already having, never mind will have. There are 100 million refugees in the world, and 50 million of them are refugees purely because of the fact that the weather has changed to such an extent that they can no longer farm or live where they are. So half of the 100 million refugees already have been forced to leave their homes as a consequence of climate change. So we know we don't need too many reminders of what happened just this summer and what will happen this winter in different parts of the world. But everything is turning upside down, and the excellent presentation that we had from the scientist helped to verify that. But it was Hillary Clinton who just said last year, interestingly, that never waste a good crisis. Don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact on climate change and energy security. And we really have, to use an English phrase, the perfect storm. If people didn't believe in climate change, they now certainly believe in the energy security issue. And so whichever side of the coin you want to look at, we're faced with the same dilemma. We need to do something. This is a real opportunity for us to amplify the voice of business. We've heard a number of comparisons between business and governments. In my view, governments are often led by ideology and also what they think will help them win at the polls. But no government lasts for more than 4 or 5 years unless they're a totalitarian regime. And maybe China will fix the problem faster than everyone else as a consequence. But the problem really is that governments come and go. Companies are different. Companies have 10, 20, 30, 40-year strategies and really are able to continue with policies which they develop and pass them over from one manager, one chief executive to another. And so I think that it's really important for us to understand how vital and how necessary the role of business is in this, because at the end of all of this, legislation frameworks can be provided by the governments, The governments can be the catalysts for change, but it's actually going to be business. It is businesses, it is the commercial world that are actually going to be the engines of that change. And so we're an absolute essential component in all of this. Without business being on side, we're not going to get anywhere. I think that what I really would like to say, which is so interesting, is that there is no resistance from business these days. It's business who are knocking on the door of governments around the world, telling governments that they really need to do more, that we need more legislation, we need more regulations, we need better frameworks. That dynamic has really shifted, and it's a fascinating shift, and it's one which I believe that will go on. And it's very heartening to hear the ministries, two very important ministries, talking, of course, so important, recognizing how important climate change is. And I'm sure that they are heartened to find that there are companies that are increasingly knocking on their doors, asking for more. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that as time moves on. In essence, what we're now talking about is that business have become the campaigners, never mind Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, and so on. It's going to be the chief executives here in this room and who are unable to be here today who are going to be the real campaigners as we move forward. Combating climate change is good for business, which is precisely why the business world has woken up to the reasons why we really need to do a lot about this crisis. It positions participating companies as credible thought leaders. It gives business some influence on the climate change agenda, gives business a seat at the table of all of these discussions. It helps shape future business acceptable legislation. It attracts and retains the best employees. People, young people, bright MBEs and so on, they want to work for the responsible businesses. They want to work for the businesses that are talking up sustainable solutions. It adds real value by increasing ESG ratings. This is the opportunity for capitalism to show itself up as being the savior of the world. It's actually the chief executive of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, who I heard say a few years ago in a speech that it's accountants who are going to save the world. It creates new business opportunities. It addresses societal expectations. It helps to create the stable conditions that are so important for business to operate properly. And it also very much reduces risk and provides for future proofness. And finally, and I put this at the bottom intentionally, is it's the right thing to do. In other words, this is not about CSR, this is not about philanthropy, this isn't about when times are good just saying we need to do something about climate change and we believe in it. This is absolutely central and at the heart of business and will become increasingly so. This isn't a luxury anymore. It's not just about doing the right thing. It's about survival, and it's about prosperity, and it's about business stability. Above all, I have lived in this country for 16 years, and I really love the Czech Republic. It's a wonderful country, and I think that it's time that the Czech Republic stands up and recognizes how wonderful it is, because often it's the Czechs who have a lower opinion of themselves than they should, if I may say so. And I believe that this is a real opportunity for this nation to become a leader. In Europe, if not the world, and to actually stand up and present itself as a center of excellence, and to show that there are businesses in this country that can play and are playing and are committed to playing a very, very important role in moving this issue forward. And that's my dream. Switzerland is a tiny country, and yet it's a banking center of excellence. Why cannot Czech Republic be a center of excellence for sustainable development? That's my dream for all of this. So recapping RETHINK, it's a CEO-led initiative, and although not every CEO has the time to attend meetings like this, every one of the companies in this room are in this room because they're representing the CEO, who is at the heart and believes very strongly in this. And I know I speak on behalf of all the companies in this room, and indeed there will be many more who will join us, I hope, along this journey. We're providing a credible voice of business. Importantly, although we're speaking in English and we're in the French embassy, or many of us are speaking English, this is a Czech-driven initiative, and that is something which we will encourage and grow as time moves on with our project. It's truly collaborative, so there are some competitors in this room, but I would suggest that we're all peer companies, and so when we have tomorrow this wonderful innovation forum, and we have, for example, 2 or 3 construction companies sitting together, and in the context of climate change, they're not competitors, but we're actually working together in a collaborative way to find solutions within that particular business sector. So there really is a focus on innovation, because every one of the companies in this room is being extraordinarily innovative and has got some fascinating ideas, and they're doing amazing things, maybe here or elsewhere in the world. And there's a huge amount that we can learn from each other and exchange expertise, ideas and experience. RETHINK should be inspiring. This is something that takes the boring theory of climate change and puts it into interesting, arresting, dynamic practice. And I know that companies, many of you have very strong marketing capabilities, can do a huge amount to help to amplify this message. We're all ambassadors for this incredibly important subject. And strong commitments is that this isn't about companies just greenwashing. There is not one company in this room that's just talking about it. This is about doing real, concrete actions. And I know that every company here today are doing such, which is precisely why they've stepped up to the plate and have agreed to sign this manifesto. Concrete actions, real actions, actually moving the needle, doing the right thing at the right time. Emphasis on the business case, explaining and promoting the reason why this is necessary for business, so as to encourage other businesses that perhaps are less understanding of why this is so important to come and join us and recognize how important this really is for business. And I think very importantly, an ongoing program of activities. This project will not be successful unless we have an ongoing relationship with all of the participating companies, and we grow this and build this. And so we are going to roll out over the coming months and over the next year or so, or even longer than that, as long as it takes, a program of activities helping companies to work with other companies, exchanging ideas, and many interesting ideas that we have, which we will look forward to sharing with you as time moves forward. So this really is only the beginning. Tomorrow will be a very interesting day with a lot of fascinating speakers, and we will learn a lot from the different companies that are there. But this is not the end, this is just the beginning. And we will be judged by the program that we are able to develop moving forward. And we very much look forward to getting ideas and inputs from all of you. I would like to repeat, because I think that I've been involved with the French embassy for the longest of everybody who has spoken, and it really is a pleasure working with you and your predecessor, with whom we had the first relationship, and with Veronique, who is the trade attaché, and Arnaud, who is Arnaud is the trade attaché, and Veronique is the science attaché. And these are wonderful people who have been extraordinarily helpful. I think it is actually worth saying, and I'm a Brit, so I'm really speaking very supportively of the French here, that the French government contributed enormously to the whole climate change issue, and the Paris Agreement was a true success, and because it was a triumph of diplomacy. I actually have been to every single one of the COPs from Kyoto, with the exception of Glasgow, which I watched online, and not all of them have been as successful as we had wanted them to be. The Paris Agreement did not happen by chance. It happened because of a very long program undertaken by the French diplomatic service to make this work, and I'm sure that there will be many books about this as time moves on, but it was a real triumph of diplomacy, and it's that which we really should thank the French for, because they've provided us with an incredibly important framework, the most powerful global treaty signed by almost every country in the world. I think there are only 4 countries that have not signed it. And you know, when we have a look at this, just in conclusion, you can see that when we started with the Kyoto meeting, there were very few businesses there. And those businesses that were there were generally oil companies and gas companies and others who were there to try to stop the process and say that actually climate change isn't really happening. Today, there are a huge number of businesses that attend these COPs, and there will be a lot of businesses attending the COP in Sharm el-Sheikh, and their voice is now really heard, and they are very strongly lobbying their own politicians to ensure that there is success as these talks move forward. So, let me conclude by saying that we're really looking forward to the Sharm el-Sheikh COP in Egypt, and it's a great pleasure to welcome the second secretary, forgive me, of the Egyptian embassy, who is coming here on behalf of the Egyptian ambassador, who unfortunately can't come today, to give us a very short flavor of what we might expect in just 6 weeks' time now in the beautiful city of Sharm el-Sheikh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Woodley, for the amazing presentation. Dear colleagues and distinguished guests, on behalf of His Excellency Ambassador Said Tindam, Ambassador of the Arab Republic of Egypt, I'm here today. He could not make it, unfortunately, due to unforeseen emergency. So, it gives me a great pleasure to be here with you today to witness the signing of a RETHINK manifesto, pledging climate mitigation and adaptation commitments. Project RETHINK provides an important opportunity for the Czech business community to demonstrate that some of the leading companies in the Czech Republic are eagerly helping to deliver solutions and support appropriate measures to combat climate change and become more resilient to energy supply shortages and disruptions. At the moment, the world is facing multiple challenges in all aspects. In Europe, here, the main attention is currently shifted towards the rising energy prices and the concept of energy strategic security. While exploring different solutions and alternative energy sources to fill the gap in supply, it is important to put into consideration that above all challenges, the impacts of climate change are worsening, and the science is telling us it's not getting any better if we continue in the current path. Next month, November, Egypt will be hosting the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, where participants from all over the world will be gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh. We intend to build on the momentum achieved during the Glasgow COP26, targeting promoting the actual implementation of Paris Agreement commitments. Egypt is hosting the conference on behalf of Africa, so we will be presenting the priorities of the African continent as regards climate change. It's worth mentioning that 500 million Africans have no source of energy, and around 900 million don't have clean cooking sources. In addition to that burden that's making the cost of finance much higher than in developed countries. We need to engineer the world green transition based on agreed principles of equity and justice. There will be a focus on climate adaptation agenda, especially financing the efforts of developing countries to build resilience and to implement their commitments. But equally, there will be an attention be given in pushing countries to take concrete steps in terms of reducing emissions and increasing the targets of their nationally determined contributions, NDCs. It is necessary to realize the importance of international unity when it comes to climate action. Climate change is a global matter that needs engagement of all countries and stakeholders, not only governmental bodies, but also the engagement of civil society and business community. COP27 will witness the launch of several initiatives dealing with important issues in sustainability, such as waste management, promotion of women's health, just energy transition, just financing, sustainable cities, climate resilient agriculture, water management, sustainable transport, and achieving decent life for all. The role of business community is vital in supporting all those initiatives and in the creation of progressive climate change solutions. Finally, I would like to thank the creators of RETHINK initiatives for their precious efforts towards promoting greener business environment, and I wish it will be a remarkable step towards building a better future for all of us, and I'm thanking the French Embassy for hosting the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I would like to ask for closing words, Mr. Kalash. Thank you.
We are approaching the final part of the very successful day. It has been a success that first 25 companies signed the manifesto, and manifesto was the first step in the life of the RETHINK program. The next step would be tomorrow, starting the first practical events and exercise by sharing experiences of these and other companies, how they address and practically look for the response in area of energy security and climate change. The first 25 companies, and I think we have not included Veolia, which came in last moment, is just the first group. And as we approach during the preparation of our RETHINK project, roughly 60 companies, there are many more waiting and fighting with the uncertainty of energy security, but being prepared to discuss extension and participation in the RETHINK program in the future. I would like to thank first the embassy here to create this very amazing, very nice setting for this memorable day. I'd like to thank to all CEOs to be very cooperative and wish them that the signing is just the first step in implementation of all these practical steps and measures to bring their companies on the sustainable way to the stability and energy security and contribution to climate change. I'd like just to invite you and draw your attention to tomorrow, to the tomorrow program. The whole day will be devoted to 6 roundtables on different topics, and it will really bring together a number of innovative experiences around these groups and other new companies. Just to remind the CEOs that the manifestos asked for organizing and facilitating the coordinators. And within the 3 months, we would like just to meet the coordinators to continue in this program and just to advance the effort in this research, this RETHINK program. Many thanks. Finally, I wish you a pleasant rest of this evening, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalaš. Tak oficiální část je za námi a dovolte, abych vás
The official part is over, and now on behalf of the organizers, I would like to invite you to a small reception that will take place in this room. So have a nice evening, and I'm looking forward to meeting you tomorrow at the Innovation Forum. Have a nice evening.